Well, we got ourselves a good old-fashioned winter storm across the Rocky Mountains, part of the Tetons, here into the west. Jackson, Wyoming, beautiful night to be out downtown. It's actually not terribly cold. Temperatures are somewhere around the 30-degree mark, but they are below the freezing mark here into Copper Mountain, Colorado, with snow coming down along the I-70 corridor that we always have to watch out for, Mike, because that weather is so much different. Once you get 10,000 feet, 9,000 feet up, it changes in an instant.
It certainly does. In fact, it did that today. We were talking with our own Chris Bianchi a little bit earlier. He was about 9,100 feet.
Okay.
Still 39 degrees. In a matter of moments, the temperatures dropped, the snow started to fall, and he was in a whiteout. Crazy.
I can't believe how many counties and states back behind you have some kind of winter weather alert, too.
Let me get some of those because, again, look at all this. We have multiple colors on here. That means we have a pretty potent storm system pushing on through. Now, it's pushed out to California. We saw all the flooding that happened in that direction, but we still have a lot of winter concerns, including blizzard concerns right around Fargo. We've got some ice that could be accumulating as we're looking across parts of Minnesota, back into parts of the plain states as well, and certainly a lot of snow still ongoing to the higher elevations into the Colorado Rockies. This is going to be followed pretty closely by another front pushing into the northwest, but for the moment we are watching this colder air spill into the plains, and it's going to push its way to the east. Now, it does look like Denver, you're going to stay a little bit too warm for some snow this time around. Maybe a few flakes out there, especially on the eastern plains, but as this system does continue to push to the east, we will see that colder air filter in all behind this, and that's going to give us a chance for some of that abundant moisture out there to turn into, first of all, some freezing rain. That can give us ice accumulations on the roadways out there. That is dangerous. And then the snow that could come on top of it. So half a foot across parts of the plains over into the upper Midwest, not out of the question. 2 to 4 across parts of the Dakotas, but the winds are going to be howling, so we're going to see a little bit of lower visibilities as well. 12 to 24 inches across some of the higher elevations into the northwest, and about a foot possible into parts of the Colorado Rockies. This is the forecast ice accumulation. This is what we're talking about. This is what we're worried about because this can really just hinder travel. We can bring power lines down. We certainly can have a bad go of it with all of this. Now, Thursday, as we get into the evening hours, we're going to watch this section in pink. Rain out ahead of that. Snow coming back behind, covering up some of that ice by Friday morning, where the ice is still coming down in a big section, Nashville up to Lexington. And then look at this. We see, again, some more chances for some of that frozen precipitation coming on down, and that can be problematic. It doesn't look like it's much better if we're looking into Grand Forks, North Dakota, because they have seen the snow coming on down, plus those winds are really pushing it around.
Yeah, blizzard warning there in that greater Grand Forks area. That's the DOT system there, North Dakota. And those temperatures, by the way, the other part of the story, back to 20 below zero or colder. I kind of want to step you through it hour by hour here. This is tomorrow afternoon when things are, again, going to continue to blossom in terms of that precipitation. We're tapping in from the Gulf of Mexico, where you see a front that takes up the whole width of the country, or height, if you will. That's when you're pulling in all of that tropical moisture from the Gulf here. So the moisture is there. We're going to be talking about what happens with it then as it interacts with colder air. Mike was talking about some of the snow here across the central U.S. Here's the way it goes. We have some heavy rain out ahead of that Thursday, tomorrow, into Friday for parts of the east, with temperatures rising to 60 or above in some cases after we just had that big, deep freeze. Here comes that pink. That's the freezing rain in western Tennessee, lower Mississippi River Valley, into the Ohio valleys. That pink area is going to be freezing rain. That's the area you want to watch for the highest impacts, because it's going to be snow on top of it with wind, and that's your highest potential for power outages and really any damage to trees and power lines. By Saturday, that low is really going to be impacting New England with freezing rain, and snow. The heaviest snow in northern New York, interior New England. Then it clears out and pretty much calms down Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday at least. This is through early Friday. There's that band of snow with the first one as you get into the Midwest, into Iowa, Wisconsin. There's that ice, then snow on top of the ice by Friday night. Start piling up 3, 4, 5, 6 inches in the Ohio Valley. This corridor is 6 plus. It's most likely a 6 to 12 inch corridor there in upstate New York and northern New England. And then we have to watch that ice there in southern New England. But yeah, my friends, I know we just got rid of the cold air, but it's returning into parts of the midsection of the country. Look at St. Louis, 63 to 27. Here we go again, my friends. All right, taking to Seattle, Washington here. We are looking at some heavy moisture moving back in. We have the timeline and coast-to-coast forecast coming up.
about some patchy fog from earlier in the week in Jackson, Mississippi. This has become pretty familiar across a lot of the southeast. That's as we've started to build in southerly winds off of the Gulf of Mexico. Thankfully, that's bumped up our temperatures in a pretty big way after last week's deep freeze. I think we were all ready to thaw out a little bit, but it's also bringing in a lot of moisture. And that low-level moisture, when you get clear skies overhead at night, you drop the temperatures, the fog develops. We're going to see that into the day tomorrow, but then we're talking about this low pressure system coming in from the west. That has a lot of cold air behind it, which means another drop in temperatures, but that cold air interacting with the warm, moist air that we build up out ahead of it, that is going to mean a chance at a lot of rain, possibly even some ice and snow for parts of the region. We're going to be tracking it for you right here on Weather Nation over the next couple of days. You can already see temperatures starting to warm a bit in the last 24 hours. Birmingham tomorrow hitting 68 degrees, but that's also when you'll start to see those rain chances moving in. And notice how much temperatures are expected to drop by the weekend, from highs in the upper 60s to 30s. And then you start talking about precip around that time. We could see during the overnight hours some icing, some snow, and it all could happen right in the very northern parts of Alabama, Mississippi, and maybe even Georgia by the end of the weekend. But tonight and today haven't been too bad. We've also been keeping an eye on the center of low pressure, just kind of traversing the eastern coast. Not expecting too many big things out of this, just pushing some moisture on shore from the Atlantic, and that's going to up our rainfall chances. Saw quite a bit of that between Orlando and Jacksonville earlier today. That's gradually going to make its way to the north. So scattered showers, a little bit extra on the Florida coastline into the southeast parts of Georgia and South Carolina, but otherwise it should be a pretty quiet, easygoing night. Just very mild and very muggy. You're going to be able to feel the moisture in the atmosphere. Overnight lows in the 50s and 60s. We dreamed of afternoon highs this warm last week. So to see this massive, drastic change in temperatures is a big deal, because we know when temperatures are warmer, the atmosphere can hold more moisture. So that's going to give that next storm system something to work with as we head into Thursday night and Friday. That low gradually working its way to the north. During the daytime tomorrow, we'll see some added rainfall chances there through the Carolinas, but the heavier rainfall is going to come as that low slides its way in from the west. Possibly even some thunderstorm activity out ahead of it and along that center of low pressure and cold front. You can see some stronger thunderstorms possible in Louisiana. Probably not any severe weather, but thunder, lightning, also something we haven't had in a couple of days because of that cool air as it settles in. But afternoon high temperatures close to 80 for much of southern Florida. 75 in Jacksonville, 67 in Macon, 69 in Columbia. 70 in Jackson. That's just setting us up. That's just setting the stage for this low to come in and use all of that energy and moisture. Problem is, once it passes, on the backside of that, we're talking a changeover to some freezing rain and snow. And that could mean very major implications for northern Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, all the way up into Kentucky, and frankly, much of the central and eastern U.S. This is going to be our next major storm system that we're talking about across the country. Here in the southeast, it's mainly going to be about the rain, but we're still keeping an eye on the cooler parts of that system that could bring icing and snow. Thunderstorms possible, especially where we had the warm part of the system, 60s, 70s, 80s for highs on Friday. But look at where that front sets up. West of it, highs in the 40s and 50s. Another drastic drop in temperatures by as much as 20, 30 degrees. It's going to feel a lot more like last week. Plus, with that drastic drop, maybe a little bit of wintry precipitation, I want to show you the ice and snow as they go hand in hand, because that's going to be our best chance as the system rolls through. A tenth of an inch, a quarter of an inch of ice, not out of the question. Still too early to nail down the details on exact totals, but we know it's possible. And we could see some snow on top of that. So Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, time for you guys to be on alert here coming up through the rest of our work week, because this system could have some pretty big travel implications, even if it's just getting to and from work. It's something that we don't need people out on the roads for. Jacksonville, you're talking about a little bit of that moisture today, but it should clear out tomorrow, and then your next chance at good, solid thunderstorm activity will be as the storm system moves through on Friday. 20-degree temperature drop into the weekend as we go from the 70s to the low 50s. Charleston, 70 and rainy on Friday, then dropping back into the upper 40s and low 50s by the time we hit Sunday.
All right. right, everyone. Welcome back into Weather Nation. We're taking a look right here in Grand Forks, North Dakota, where they are under a blizzard warning. Now, it doesn't matter how much snow is really coming down. It's just the visibility out there, and the winds are pushing that snow around. Even the snow that's already on the ground, we're seeing that really reduce some of the visibility. So a little bit of treacherous travel across that portion of the country. In fact, most places out west, you're going to run into a little bit of this wintry weather, and all that is pushing east.
And it's really going to evolve and get heavier as we go through the next couple of days, too, impacting a lot of people are going to feel something from this storm system there. I get the shivers just looking at that Grand Forks picture.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's tough sledding up through there with that.
Yeah.
Very cold conditions. The wind chills have dropped well below zero, and then you've got that blowing snow giving you the reduced visibility. Tough go.
20 to 25 below zero coming your way for the Grand Forks. We'll get to that in a moment. Let's get to the Viper radar here, show you what's going on across the country. Kind of just want to set the stage with the active watches that we have. Watches and warnings, but a lot of these are current for snow. And as I put these on, you can just see the amount of coverage under the radar right here that we have from winter weather alerts across the Northwest into parts of the Rockies, really in the central western plains, Midwest, and it stretches up here into parts of the central U.S. It goes into a flood watch there and into warmer weather with rain coming in to parts of the Northeast. So definitely busy weather, very active storm system here that we're going to be covering here at Weather Nation with you. Let's just dive into a couple of places. And I want to first take you into where we're seeing that cold snow up into the high plains, right around Grand Forks, along I-29, I-94. All snow, all going to be snow as well. It's more of a mix of some rain, some freezing rain here into parts of South Dakota and Minnesota. Picks up intensity with a mix. It's changing over those. This is what's going to happen for a lot of people here with this storm system. It's going to start as rain, be quite heavy at times, and then it's going to turn over to freezing rain and some snow. So we're seeing this happen north of North Platte, north of I-80. As you get along I-70, it's a rain here into the plains and bumping up against the Rocky Mountains, and more so a snow across parts of Colorado into Utah as well, and parts of I-15. We have dried out across the, unfortunately, wet and deadly rains that we had across California, and across the west we are seeing a little return of some moisture. That's going to be picking up intensity over the next few days, which Mike will talk on in just a little bit. Two more stops here across the south. We're looking at some moisture in Florida and into Texas. Could have a rumble of thunder or two there, and a wintry mix into New England. Definitely, Mike, active as you see all those alerts.
Yeah, it certainly is. So let's run right on through a few of these other alerts. First of all, that snow is coming to an end into the Colorado Rockies. We may still see a couple of bands push on through, but still under a winter storm warning. Winter weather advisories, those continue out ahead of this front. We showed you right where the rain, the snow line is, but as we see this push on to the plains, we may get a little bit of that frozen precipitation, some of that freezing rain down first, and then the blanket of snow over the top of that. That can be deceiving if you're out driving around. So make sure that you plan ahead over the next couple of days, especially if you're in the areas that may see some of this freezing rain. It's a little more deceptive than just that snow coming down on the ground, and we will see that a little bit as we look into parts of the central portion of the U.S. and then as we're looking into parts of the southeast, we'll see a little bit more as we go a little bit later Thursday night into Friday morning. Another system right on the tail of this last one pushing into the northwest, giving us a better chance for some snow that direction, and it will once again keep us fairly active across this region. So rain will push on in. Now this is as we go right on into our Thursday, a little bit more rain and snow to parts of Washington and Oregon. It's a lot of moisture associated with this one again. And then as that cold air pushes on through, we will see the snow continuing into parts of the high plains, back over into Montana, Idaho, and across the northwest. This is going to keep things active for this portion of the country and keep things a little bit cooler too many times. We do have already those winter weather alerts out in place. These many times have been upgraded from a watch, and now we do have those winter storm warnings for this portion of the country. So it will be active as we go through the next day or so with significant snowfall coming on in from this next system as well, into the higher elevations, into the Cascades, across the Bitterroots, into the Rockies of Montana, looking at substantial snowfall, even back over towards Yellowstone National Park, Grand Tetons, and Jackson Hole, you'll see quite a bit. But as we look into the northeast, we will see that risk for some of that freezing rain. We're going to keep you updated on this, and you can always go to our Facebook page. We post information such as this, like the ice storm, on our Facebook. Go there.
Coming in or in this case, probably coming in pretty cold in St. Paul, Minnesota. We've seen temperatures moderating quite a bit for the upper Midwest, but there's still a lot of snow on the ground, and you know what, it is still January. We do have some milder temperatures. We are talking about an uptick. I mean, when you compare it to where they were in the last 24 hours with some sunshine and some quiet conditions, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa have seen some pretty drastic differences. We've been talking about temperatures in Michigan even 10 to 15 degrees warmer than this time yesterday. But the next batch of cold air, there it is, knocking at the door. And that is going to dominate our forecast here in the upper Midwest and across the country the next couple of days. We've got a major storm system. You can, of course, find that on demand at weathernationtv.com or in our top weather stories at 0, 20, and 40 past the hour. But I want to take a second and focus in on what it's going to mean for the upper Midwest. Out ahead of it, very breezy winds, 20, 30 mile per hour gusts out of the south. That's what's taken our temperatures up. But look, behind the front, behind the storm system, those winds are even stronger. And they're going to team up with a chance at wintry weather. We're seeing expanding winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories. Not just for the new snow that's going to fall, but also some icing potential in there, and the winds limiting visibilities and making driving dangerous, if not extremely difficult. We're going to start to see that sliding east overnight tonight, taking us through the day on Thursday and into the day on Friday. Where we have that winter storm warning, we're talking about a big bullseye, a big line of at least 3 to 6, maybe closer to 4 to 8 inches. Add on a little bit of icing to go with that, and roads are going to be all but impassable. And widespread 2 to 4 inches possible. In Michigan and the farther east you live, it could be a little bit trickier. We could see some more rain and a bit more icing developing in there. But there's a lot of cold air to go along with this, so winter weather precipitation is going to dominate the upper Midwest. How cold is it? Well, let's talk about going from highs in the 40s to highs barely above 0. And those overnight lows, this is what's really going to get you. This is deja vu all over again. We're going to see those temperatures from the last week coming back this week. Wind chill values reaching dangerous levels once again. So you may have gotten a break, but it's going to be followed by a chance at wintry weather in the form of gusty winds, ice, and snow, and then a blast of cold air. Here's that storm system we're talking about. Out ahead of it, we're setting the stage with warmth and moisture. But as that low slides east, we're talking about that snow on the backside of it. Definitely cold enough to see snow overnight tonight for much of Minnesota and northern Wisconsin. But Iowa, you could start to see a little bit of icing as you start off your morning tomorrow. So if you're in Mason City, Des Moines, really anywhere in the heart of the state or even the eastern half of the state, a good idea to give yourself extra time on the roads for your morning commute or really anywhere you're going to be going during the daytime yesterday. And you can already start to see the impact it'll have on temperatures with lows below 0 in Bemidji and Fergus Falls. On the opposite end of things, we're talking about overnight lows only in the 30s and 40s out ahead of this. That's how warm and moist the air is behind this front. But as the cooler air comes in, we'll see a bit more of that freezing rain as we head through the day on Thursday, and a lot more snow where the coldest air sets up in Minnesota, through Iowa, and across the state of Wisconsin. We'll see gradual clearing from west to east, but that's where the coldest air lives. We're talking highs, maybe not even warming above 0 in northern Minnesota. Lots of teens all the way down to Sioux City and Mason City. On the warmer edge of things, 40s and 50s for highs in Michigan. But we still have all that moisture to work with, which means Michigan into Friday morning and Friday afternoon, you'll see that rain changing over to ice and snow on the very tail end of this system. Hopefully losing a lot of that by the time we end the day on Friday and everybody starts to quiet things down. But like I said, that's when the coldest of the air is just going to start to settle in. With high temperatures on Friday, lucky to hit the 20s and low 30s in southern Michigan. We're talking single digits and teens, above 0 if you're lucky, below 0 if you're in one of the cooler spots in the northwest. Madison, you'll go from highs close to 50 with a chance of rain to seeing that change over to ice and snow with a high of 21 on Friday, teens expected into the weekend. We'll be clear, so at least we've got the sunshine, but it's those clear skies that are going to plummet overnight lows below 0. We'll see the same thing in Des Moines Saturday into Sunday, and possibly another chance at a bit more snow by the end of our weekend, keeping us with a winterly-like feel into next week.
Welcome back. The heartbreaking images continuing to come on other parts of Southern California. You're looking at Montecito, California and Santa Barbara County. Areas, homes, businesses wiped out by mudslides. And that storm system continues to push on to the east, and it's going to bring a pretty good punch to other spots, from ice to snow to even heavy amounts of rain that could prompt more flooding.
Powerful images right there. Unfortunately, we learned earlier in the evening that death toll rose from 15 to 17, still looking for some unaccounted folks there, and all because, again, we had those terrible wildfires and then the very heavy rain that's just ended in the past 24 hours, Meredith.
And we even had some rain rates within 5 minutes of a half an inch,
Wow.
if you can just imagine that. And even in some spots, between a half an inch to an inch of rain coming down within an hour.
And every situation is different, but if you hear flash flood warnings, that kind of thing, definitely heed those weather alerts here and warnings from the National Weather Service, if you hear here on Weather Nation or Weather Radio as well. Now that storm has exited California. It's sitting right over the Four Corners. This is where we have some slippery travel on the colder side of this system, up into the elevations on I-70 and parts of 15 as well, where we'll have some winter travel with some snow heavy blowing as well. And that's just the beginning. Look at all of these winter weather alerts that stretch up to the Canadian border through the high plains, the Midwest, and we're talking about a lot of blowing and drifting snow, bitterly cold temperatures. Definitely have that cold weather-related kit, emergency kit there in your vehicle when traveling. All along this strong cold front, as that continues to move east, another plunge of Arctic air. Another system arrives. It's going to be moderate to heavy. Parts of Washington State, northern Oregon, into Idaho and western Montana. Tomorrow into Friday, it glides across the Rockies as well. A little bit of wind with this system for tonight. It's one other weather alert we had to let you know about here across Texas. Otherwise, temperatures will be tumbling here, getting down to about 44 on Thursday for Denver, where we had mid-60s there just a couple of days ago. And into Salt Lake City, rained there on Friday, but higher elevation snow looks good here for some weekend conditions for the ski resorts in Flagstaff, but much drier there after we had that heavy precip in this form of snow move through in the past 24 hours. Wednesday across the northwest, a little closer look at it. We're waiting for this next system to arrive tomorrow, which is going to scoot across the Rockies and weaken with time. But we still could be talking about some heavy snowfall above about 4,000 to 5,000 feet into some of the mountains as you get into western Montana too. And all these winter weather alerts, they continue through Thursday for the mountains to get a foot plus. Let's take it to St. Paul, Minnesota. We're going to switch gears, talk about the East Coast impact here as we're watching that go to the east with warmer air and a wintry mix, Meredith.
Steve, one of the biggest problems that we're seeing is going to be that ice accumulation. Also, for tree branches, that just brings them down, but most importantly, for your commute, for the roads, we could pick up to a half an inch of ice between now and Sunday. So just keep that in mind. If the freezing rain is coming down, that is going to start to accumulate on the roads, and especially in the overnight hours. Where you see the pink, this is where we're talking for seeing that on Friday. The blue is going to be snow as that cold air wraps in behind that system. It's going to fall as snow right here, and then ahead of it we see rain with those milder temperatures from Maine all the way down into the Carolinas as far south as Atlanta. This is Friday morning, so again, you have to keep in mind for your commute that it is going to be very slick across this region. For Friday, as we get into the evening, all of this turns over to snow and even some heavier snow in some parts, and you'll have some heavier rain continue out ahead of the front. We'll still have that area for that wintry mix, and be careful, especially on bridges. They are the area that ices the fastest. Winter weather alerts for Thursday morning for that light freezing rain. We do have the winter weather advisories, which include Saratoga Springs and even all the way up from New Hampshire into Maine. We're also going to be watching that for flooding through Saturday, because some of those ice jams in the rivers and in the creeks, we could run into some issues here. That's why we have a watch in place, not a warning. If we start to see flooding, that means it's imminent, or also that means it's occurring. So just prepare, especially if you live along a river that already looks pretty high. Here's your current temperatures across the area. We have temperatures in the 30s and 40s, even the 50s in Indianapolis and Cincinnati. And over the last 4 hours, you're going to see that the rain falling ahead of the system, but you can see where that cold air is, bringing snow to parts of the Dakotas. And we are going to continue to watch that for you right here. If you want more information and some stories of what's happening across the country, go to weathernationtv.com.
Welcome back into Weather Nation. As you can see, we are expecting a heavy, pretty widespread too, winter storm to encompass many states across the lower 48. I'm meteorologist Steve Glazier here with your central regional forecast. We're going to be rotating around the country, letting you know further details of each region, what to expect. And in our top weather stories, our Weather Nation Nows, those are more so geared to some of what's happening on the national level, that is on the big side. But this is definitely the big story here. Winter weather alerts that stretch into parts of northwestern Missouri, central Kansas. These will change from time to time, so instead of just taking this as one image right here, definitely come back in, check back in, as we will likely have some modifications as the days get closer. The days that you should watch out for wintry weather, Thursday and Friday, and especially Thursday night into Friday here across the central United States. Winter storm watch posted through Friday night from roughly Indianapolis down into Memphis, even leaks into parts of the southeast. So winter weather definitely headlining our top weather stories here across the central United States. Heavy freezing rain likely. We could have some significant ice accumulation across parts of the area. We'll let you know which areas have the greatest risk and likelihood of any power outages for that reason, and icy roads. And the worst of it, again, is Thursday into Friday. This is Thursday afternoon's weather picture. We're going to have this pink area, kind of a narrow area, but it could be heavy in terms of some freezing rain as cold air comes in from Canada, and you have this warm, moist source from the Gulf of Mexico. For many of us here in the central United States, it's going to be a rain, then changing to sleet, freezing rain, and snow at the back edge. So we'll likely kind of get all four precip types that we do cover here. And by Friday, again, it's most widespread and actually starting to gain strength by Friday morning. The pink area, either some sleet or some freezing rain. The blue, the snow, and the green, some of the rain. That's the weather setup. Heaviest ice accumulations, Tennessee. Right now, it looks to be in parts of Tennessee and into Kentucky. There could be locally up to a ½ inch of ice, a quarter to ½ inch of ice in these deeper pinks and purples. Those are areas that you want to make sure everything's charged up. You may have power outages there due to the weight of the ice on some of the power lines and any wind that comes in as well. And outside of that, definitely treat those roads with extra caution. If we don't get those heavy ice accumulations of a ½ inch, a quarter inch, just a few hundredths of an inch of ice is all it takes to really slicken up those roads. So again, it's going to be changing, ever-changing couple of days. Rain, freezing rain, then snow. This is the snow on Friday that really kicks into gear in the parts of Tennessee, Kentucky, into the Ohio Valley. And those little pink corridors there on that legend shows the potential of 8 inches plus for some snowfall. So there could be some heavy, wet snow. And the reason why we're bringing in all this moisture here from the Gulf of Mexico. And we've been very cold and snowy. So you have that warm air coming in, and there could be some dense fog. Lots to watch out for here weather-wise as well. Definitely the next couple of days, more weather hazards than normal. So give yourself extra time and kind of have that mindset to check on the weather just before you do travel and head out. So in the parts of Arkansas, and the deep south, and here into Indiana and into Illinois, we have had some fog too. This is Hicks, Illinois, that we had earlier in the day. Let's take you by the timing here into tonight. Snow starts to develop in the parts of western central Kansas. Rain out ahead of that. Very warm air, but again, dense fog in some spots.